I've been kind of done with this place for a while, and that's so funny because every time I interview people like in this area, like you guys are staying in this area, and I think this is probably a good area, but I've lived here my whole life, so I have like that weird bias where I'm like, I gotta get out of here.
It feels too much, too contained. You know too many people.
Yeah. So tell me, you guys, where you're from again? I forgot.
So I guess start with origin story. So I'm from Newburgh, town of Newburgh. I went to Walk Hill High School. Went to Utica College. That's where I met him.
Yeah.
And then after I graduated from that, I moved to Guilderland. Then I lived in Saratoga for a little bit. I went back home, and then I now live out in Schenectady.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I grew up in like the Binghamton area. Went to Vestal High School. Went to Utica where I met Kalif, and then I still live in Utica. I got a house there, got a job, and kind of standing out there for a little bit for the first like adult period of my life.
Yeah, it's weird. So I was on a podcast the other day with a old work buddy of mine. He's like, "You're being your age." So what are you guys? I'm 25. What are you guys?
I'm
26.
26. Yeah. So
I just turned 26.
Like our age from like 23 to like 27. He's like, it's like you're 4 or 5 years old again. Like you really have no fucking idea what you're doing. You know what
it's
I mean?
all like back to
you're
basics
putting things
again.
Like in the reality of the world, like you're an adult now.
Yep.
Like you have to have a job. You have to, like do what you like. Just,
Adulting.
Yeah. Literally. Like,
literally.
Yo, you guys, you have what's it called? Insurance now.
Yeah.
26, like,
Yep.
I'm dreading that. I just turned 25 in July, and I'm like dreading the old insurance thing. But yeah, he's like, dude, it's like you're 4 or 5 years old again. Like you're out there just trying to figure it out. He's like, you're stressed out. I don't know why you're stressed out. Like you're not supposed to like be killing it right now. You're supposed to just be
it's a building period.
That's true.
It's weird because it's a transitional period. I think like when you get really to your like 25s and or above like 23, like you were saying, because now it's a new position in your life, but you have to build different skills and all the stuff that you've been doing. Like you've gone to school and you built, book skills. You've gone to do theory things, but now it's all about practicality, and it's also about like what can you actually do in life that's going to be useful.
Right.
It's not about theory no more. It's about.
I think that ties in a lot with like why we ended up starting Unrivaled Media. Was at least for me throughout life, I feel like there's always been those like every 4 years is a transitional period.
Yeah, 100%.
Go from like elementary to middle school, high school, college, and then when you get done with college, they just throw you out there like you're saying. So it's like what am I gonna do next? And I think for me, what helps me stay grounded or at least feel content is if I have like a goal. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I need like a higher goal to achieve outside of just like going to work. Because you can like grow in your career, but a lot of those things take like 40 years. And a lot of it is like networking and things like that. So it's not just like, it's not as difficult as maybe like the skill gap between like middle school and high school where you really like engage there.
Right. Yeah, it's weird because I totally agree with what you said. I resonate with it. Like, you really are just trying to figure it out. Like, you have they just throw you out into the world. They're like, you have to just figure this out. So I wanted to ask you guys in terms of like starting your own thing. Obviously, Unrivaled Media, it's like a non-traditional path. Most people are going to go get 9-to-5s or just, work a regular job. What made you guys want to be like, yeah, we really want to start this? And like make it something more than just like a hobby. You want to make it into a company and like actually, take it serious.
Do you want to start? Do you want me to
Okay, I'll start and then I'll pass it on to you. Right. So this was back when I was in Guilderland, right? I was working my IT job at the time, and I got off work. I've already been doing some work with Unrivaled Energy because it was his idea, and then we kind of came together. But then we've already had little talks about having a business and doing that. And I was just sitting in my apartment at the time. I was like, nah, this is not it. Like this is not it. Just waking up at 5 and then getting off at 3. I'm like, no, like I'm trying to have something in my life to actually produce some type of also wealth, but also a environment that I can have for my family. And then that's what led me to be like, yo, we got tap in.
And like something that actually energized you too. Like I think about that all the time. I worked a sales job. And I made pretty decent money doing it, but it was like I would wake up with anxiety. It wasn't like, oh, I'm making all this money or whatever. It was like I would literally have anxiety. I'm like, I'll make no money, and I'd rather wake up and like do stuff I want to do, like this type of stuff.
For it,
And it's so cliche. I hate like one of the things
You're on so
I'm
many
like super
podcasts.
against, and you guys might see it in my content, is like the cliches and like the corny, like just I hate the cliche stuff that people do. I want to be like more authentic, but with that cliche, that was one that I really started to understand as I got into my mid-20s, was like, you can make all the money in the world, and if you hate your job every day, it just does not matter.
The time is not really worth all that
Yeah,
you're putting
like
in.
especially too if you don't have time freedom. That's another reason why I kind of wanted to do this, because I work on my own time. Like if I want to stay up late till 1 o'clock in the morning and work or do whatever, work on a weekend if I want to. It's like I think the people that have regular jobs, and that's the other thing. I never want to like shit on other people for having regular jobs, because
9 to 5s also work.
Right. Yeah.
9 to 5s also work.
It's like a trend to like shit on the 9 to 5, but like that's also a tough living too. Like that's like, I respect people who can wake up every day, like you said, at 7 in the morning, work all the way till 5 o'clock, come home, do it every single day. Like that's just not me, and I respect people that can do that. But I think it's a weird trend that like people are shitting on the 9 to 5 when they don't realize like what's the opposite of 9 to 5. It's like 24/7, bro. You work for yourself, but it's kind of that trade off.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something I've been juggling with honestly in my head for like the past couple
What are
years
some
now.
things you do to kind of balance that then? 'Cause I think for us, like we're still we do the business as well as our 9 to 5s. Really, the 9 to 5 fund the things we do here.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of times like you get off of your 9 to 5, you have those troubles, and then you have all the rest of the business stuff for the rest of the day. So how do you like try to balance that out when you're 100% on your business? How do you balance that when you could be getting like clients calling you or having issues with stuff and calling you at any time of the day?
I'm still working through it, honestly. I think it's a skill to be able to be available 24/7. Like, say it's 9 o'clock and somebody hits you up, a client hits you up, or you have videos to edit or whatever it might be. I think something, fortunately for me, is it kind of works with my personality. I've always been like a night owl type guy. I never really liked getting up at 6 in the morning. So something I do to balance is that like I kind of just accept who I am, and I work at the times I'm most productive. And I try not to like label it as something good or bad. Like, people say if you wake up at 4:30 in the morning, you're gonna be successful. I'm like, well, if you wake up at 4:30 and you watch TV till 9, like that doesn't mean
anything. You're not doing anything.
It's like, what do you do when you're awake? Somebody, I can't remember what the quote was. Maybe it was a Hermosi quote or Gary Vee. It's like, it doesn't matter what time you wake up. It matters what you do when you're awake.
That's true.
So that's something that I've been able to like rationalize in my head and not label it as good or bad whenever I'm getting my work done. And I am kind of like a hectic person. Like sometimes I'll go 4 or 5 hours just locking in, and then I'll go a weekend where I just like have fun. Like that's been something I've been trying to balance too. So I would say I don't have it fully balanced. But yeah, every single day is just kind of like learning more about myself. And like I said, it sounds super cliche, but as a business owner, that's just kind of like what you have to do on a day-to-day basis, just learn about yourself.
Something off of that, right? So me and him have a lot of like talks back and forth about self-awareness and stuff. And something you just brought up is like, it's not really about the fact that like you have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and that's what's going to determine the fact that you're successful. It's about what you do. Yeah. Recently, me and him were having a conversation about like, what determines a good day? Like, what is actually a good day? Because a lot of people talk about like how are you, or are you having a good day? But I don't think they're really like thinking about like that and have actually a standard for that. So do you have a standard for that?
Yeah, for sure. If I don't go to the gym, it's a bad day for sure. Like after this, I'm going to the gym for sure. For whatever reason, I think I'm a former athlete. I was lucky enough to be like brainwashed into working out and having good physique and knowing that that's way more than the physical part of it. I think
it is for me. It clears my mental clarity. 100%. It's like a big thing for me.
If I can't go to like I said, I'm not a big morning guy, but like if I can wake up, get a few hours of work done, hit the gym, and then it's like, all right, my day's kind of starting from that point. That's a win for me for the day. And I think the other thing too is like, I think we all have to-do lists and we all make them really long, or some people make them really short. I think if you can win your to-do list every single day,
it feels good.
It feels good. And it's, for me, what winning the day really means is a mental win. Like, because at the end of the day, everybody's at their own pace. You're moving the needle in whichever way possible you can. Everybody's trying their hardest. But I think if you can have more mental wins than anything, it's better, because something that I've been trying to work on in my life is like positive self-talk. And like, I think that's something that's just thrown out there, like talk to yourself positively. But like, what does that really mean and how does that really get done? It's when you can respect yourself. So you say, I'm going to the gym after this. If I were to just go fuck off after this and go watch TV for
Then
the
you
rest
lie
of
to
the day.
yourself.
then you're
Like nobody's telling me that was a bad thing. Nobody's gonna come and say, "Oh, you didn't go to the gym." It's like almost like when you go to college for the first time. You don't go to class. Your parents
No
aren't
professor
there.
yeah,
saying
it's
anything.
nobody's there.
There's no-
Yeah.
You
So
gotta
for
take
me,
accountability.
it's about respecting my own words, because I think every time that you tell yourself you're gonna do something and you don't, you subconsciously lose some respect for yourself.
Yep, I agree.
So
I agree.
I would say that's what that's what I consider a win for the day, or like what's a good day is I just did what I said I was gonna do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a good question though. Yeah.
So recently, like I said, we were thinking about those questions. So for me, you say if sometimes like either your list is long or short. So something that I kind of came to the conclusion about was it's getting the most important task done, or a task that I really desire done, like something that needs to get done, or a task that I desire to get done. So more so I think about it in terms of priority, and then making sure that I hit those. Then I have like other things like routine wise that I want to do to help maintain myself. And kind of going back to something that you actually talked about is the needle, right? Like I always have this thought I used to tell myself, well, I still tell myself, is nobody's coming to help you. Like in life, like it's your life, and where you get like the needle of where it's at, you have to move it.
Yeah.
Every time, like with anything that you have a hand in or a bucket in, the only way that needle moves is by you putting some type of force onto that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's so funny because this entire podcast will probably just say cliche after cliche, but it's right though. That's the thing.
No,
it's
it's
like,
real. It's real.
I think social media is just watered down cliches because you see it on a daily basis,
so
every
much.
5 seconds. So you're like, all right, screw that. But no, you're totally right. Like you have to be the one that's moving the needle, especially in what we want to do for our lives. Like I think if you want to just work for somebody else, it's a lot easier.
They
to just be
provide
like,
the priority for
Right,
that.
yeah,
You don't
yeah,
have to
exactly.
organize that. You don't have to put together a structure to make it work.
Right, it's
When
like-
things are failing, they'll figure it out. If it's not your job, it doesn't
like 5
happen.
o'clock
If
hits,
it's
I'm going home. Like
Yep,
I don't really.
it's not my responsibility no
Yeah,
more.
which is I think a freeing thing. Some people are like, I don't want the life where I have to go figure everything out. But
Yep.
in turn, I think for me, like my biggest fear is that in 15 years, I was like, damn, I never really tried anything.
Yep.
Like,
That's what I've been telling you about.
That's
If I end up-
his point.
If I, for example, if I just die, God forbid, tomorrow, would I be able to look back in those last moments and say, I did as much as I could?
Right.
And if I could say that, then I'd be like, all right, then I feel
is what it
fine.
is.
But if I felt like there's a lot of spaces where like I let my fears stop me from doing something, or I was just like, and didn't do something that I really wanted to do, then I feel like I would have some regret there.
Yeah.
And the goal is to just have as little regret as possible.
what do you feel like where do you think the fear comes from? And I guess
Like in life, like
behind my
for
question
life?
is like, I've been juggling with my mortality for the last few
That's
years.
crazy. He just brought that up this morning.
Yeah. like where do you think that fear comes from? Because I think something that I've had to get over for the past couple of years was like in terms of posting my own content. I've been making my own content for years now. Just nothing I felt confident enough about putting out there. And then finally I was just like, I just got to pull the trigger, because at the end of the day, like we're all going to die. And it's a very morbid thing to say, but I think the thought for me behind it is like, where's the fear coming from? Like, why wouldn't I just post as much as I can, as many pieces of content as I can per day, talk to my story as much as possible, have people on my podcast that, I met at a bar, like what the fuck, what's going to happen that's so bad?
I think the fear is usually that. Well, I think it's like social fear of like either embarrassment for like the posting.
What are others
content,
gonna
is the
say?
quality good enough that I think people would like it, or maybe you have a high. Like, I think for myself, I think I have a high standard that I have for myself.
Yeah.
So, and it's always like elevating. So it's not really something that's very reachable. I kind of use that to like motivate myself to improve.
Right.
So typically whatever I can do now is below the standard that I'm trying to reach. So
Right.
you always end up feeling like this is not good enough, or this is not like where it needs to be.
Yeah. Do you feel like any of it's external for either of you guys? Like, do you feel like the fear of judgment from other people, or the fear of like failure? Like, do
I
you
don't
feel
know.
like any of that's
For me, I don't know if
present?
I wouldn't call it a fear, but I think like from growing up like parents, grandparents, family, doing things with like a high quality was like instilled. So I don't know if it's much a fear, but like me, I don't feel proud of the things that I do unless I think that I did it well. So even if it was like a transitional step where it's like, okay, this is just like the first time we did this,
Right.
I don't feel like excited like I did something, because I know that what I would consider quality of this might be like 4 or 5 like revisions down the line of that.
Yeah,
but
that's like the life of an artist, you know. I mean, it's like you never feel like it's good enough. What about for you?
So you talk about external, right? Like, is it external for me? But I think that I don't think it really is maybe external for anybody, except for after the fact. Like, so like after the fact, you post the content and then maybe you see other people responding to it in a certain way. So then you feel some type of reaction. But anything before the action of posting whatever you've created, you're thinking external, but it's all coming from an internal voice of your understanding of what the world will say, which is still actually about you. Go ahead.
I'll add my thing after.
Okay, so for me, it's like we all have a kind of a vision or an understanding of like what the world is for us. For when we have like, I created something like, okay, I think that they will perceive this as X, and I will feel Y. And for me, like, I have people that I use as kind of like mirrors or critics before I even get to that point, because I'll also tell myself like, that really wasn't that good because of my own standards. But then I'm at the end point and I'm like, will people really like this, or will I be able to really convey the message that I'm trying to do? And then that's when I'll come to like other people that I care about, that I consider in my circle, where it's like, give me your honest opinion.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. I think what you said right there is very relatable, because I think it's not about, do I think it's good or do they think it's good? It's like, I think for me, it's like a higher purpose, because at the end of the day, like you mentioned, I resonated with that a lot. I think I'll make a piece of content, and then if I sit on it for a week, I'm like, I need to redo that, or I need to re-edit this, or I need to re-say it this way. And I used to do music videos. It was the same way. It would take me months to finish them, because I'm like, nah, this part. But at the end of the day, no matter what, you'll always look back and think, oh, why did I post that?
Yeah,
like, when I was 16, why did I wear that? Why did I look like that?
Yeah,
it's like,
So
you know what I mean?
It's always in hindsight, right?
Always in hindsight. So I always think about it like that. If that's a fact of life, that's how it's always going to be, then why would I not just put it out there? And like literally within the last few weeks, I've kind of gotten over that hump. And I think anybody that's ever done anything good, they know, all right, this probably isn't my best piece of work ever, but I have to put it out there
at this moment.
And I have to let it get judged. I have to be able to go to people that are close in my life and say, what do you think about this? I'm going to post it regardless. What do you think about this? Okay, this is what I could change for next time. Because I think at the end of the day, besides what you think about it, you get respect for doing the action. And you could be doing all this content, or setting up meetings in the background, or running events, but if you never show that to the public,
no one
or
even knows it happened,
let people know, then you'll never get the respect, and then you'll never get the opportunity that you would in the future, because people see you at least trying. Like,
and the execution part of it, I think there's a lot of like experience that you get that does help you like improve the process. Like we talked about the event earlier. Yeah. The doing it and seeing like what the things that we didn't do well helped us to say, okay, these are things that we can improve, or at least we need to solve later to make it to where we want to go. Right. But if we just had it in our minds, there's just too many variables that you can't really like narrow it down until you really do it.
Yeah. And then now next time somebody sees that you put on an event, now there's a chance that it's just putting yourself out there, like marketing, it's attention is new currency type thing. So yeah, I think that's huge for me. It's like, now it's more of just a higher purpose. Like I know where I want to be in 5 to 10 years. I know like the type of brand I want to have, the person I want to be, the company I want to run. But if I never just start doing it, you'll never get the respect. People, I can't tell you how many people have hit me up just with new opportunities in New York City and around this area. Like, not that all of them will work out, not that they're all this,
but they're at least looking at you.
It's out there,
conveying more actions. So
that's been something that I've really taken from posting content the last few weeks, is like, people would just see it and notice it. And the other thing too that I want to touch on is, the more I consume content, the harder it is for me to create content.
See, that's what I was telling you about. That's why I said I wasn't watching that. I can't watch that.
That's what I'm saying. It was my first time, and it was also doing it in a constructive way.
I don't know,
but
that. You were giggling.
I enjoyed it. I can't enjoy it at the same time. Like, what are you talking? So basically, we're trying to produce another show, right? And there is a show that I was watching on YouTube that's basically the same show. And he was like, you can't you can't get high on your own supply. And I'm like, I'm not. First of all, I'm constructively observing this, but I also just happen to enjoy it as a byproduct.
But you're doing the whole. You're taking the whole thing. It was like a 40-minute video. You can scrub through it and like look for targets.
You might miss some if you don't watch all of it. You might miss some.
You're not gonna miss the principles.
And again, I enjoyed it. So it's okay.
And it was the first time you're saying.
No, this is a video. There's a video concept that we're putting together. We have a couple of like video ideas that we need like cast for. We might need some more equipment, et cetera, to set up.
Right.
And one of them, it's like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like one of them where it's like multiple people and they're asking different questions and they have some type of game show in that way without going into too many details.
Gotcha.
But it was a long, like 40-minute video of that. And he was watching. I guess he saw it on TikTok or something.
Yeah, I saw it on TikTok originally, and then I was like, "All right,
he
I'm gonna
was
go watch
watching it." And I was saying, like, for me, I can't. I saw the same video, but I never went to go look at the full thing because if I do that, one, I feel like that changes. It means that in my mind, when I think of that genre of content,
I see what you mean.
80% of it is going to come from this video. So when I make it, it's going to be way less of like things that I come up with and way more of stuff that I got from that video because I've just consumed so much of it as far as the context of that thing. And then maybe I'm not able to like focus in on areas that would be like uniquely unrivaled media because my vision of my idea of this genre has no more room for like my creative aspect.
So this is great. So I'll tell you how I kind of navigate that, but so that you don't take my answer, tell me how you feel like you navigate that process.
I think I'd try to look at like instead of looking at the execution of it, or not the execution, but like, instead of looking at the product, I look at the way they did it and like what are the things that I would need to get the same like theme. So like for example, we need like a big area so I could put like a big white backdrop. Gotcha. We would need to make sure we had boom mics that are coming up. I didn't see any of them with lapel mics.
So you're like almost not even thinking of the content at all.
I'm not thinking of the content.
He's thinking about like the production and logistics of it.
Yeah. And then we can put whatever we want in there, and as long as it's like in the right quality and in the right like execution, then people are gonna find it like appealing to them.
Yeah. Fair. What I've been doing more recently just to get like more creative is I agree because the more I consume, like if I just binge consume content, I almost get discouraged. I'm like, dude, people are so good at this. Like, why am I even trying? You know what I mean? Like, why would I even try to make content?
That's fair.
But I do think there's an element of like, they say steal like an artist. You know, it's like you have to. I think personally,
that's a great phrase, actually.
Yeah, I feel like you need to have some type of inspiration, and I guess this is a good chance to get into kind of like my origin story and how I got into making videos. When I first started making videos, I was like 15 or 16, and it was from Casey Neistat. I don't know if you guys know Casey Neistat.
Yeah, he was a big vlogger. Yeah, I think he retired, but big vlogger.
But he's a YouTube vlogger for like at least 5 years. But it was something
every
sick.
day.
It was like 800 days in a row or 500, something sickening. He did a vlog every single day. It was like 6 to 7 minutes, 10 minutes at times. So he's what really inspired me to start. So I just started with doing like vlogs on my own. I was like 16 in my backyard. Bought I had a job at that point. Bought a camera. Was posting vlogs like me and my friends going on vacations. And then my parents were split. My mom got remarried. I did like a wedding vlog of her wedding when I was like 17, I think. And then I got into doing like music videos and short films. I ended up going to college and pursuing film in college, which if I could go back, I wouldn't do that because it's just like...
You didn't like it? Was it too much theory and not enough application?
Yeah, honestly, there was a lot of theory. There was a lot of like old school, like I'll never forget going around class in like freshman year. I think I was undecided. So then it was like technically my second year. We go around class and everybody's like, what's your favorite movie and who's your favorite director? And people are saying these movies from like, I don't know, like the 70s and all these prestigious directors, and they get to me and I'm like, honestly, like I like YouTube, to be honest with you.
Okay, so it was way more like academic. They weren't really looking at it from like a...
So like I always felt out of place there. I always felt like I don't really care to be on like a movie set. And I think luckily in this day and age, I've been able to be blessed at like social media era, and like that's things that make money are in social media. So you don't need to be like a director. I always was like, I'm in film school, but like I don't want to go be a PA on a movie set. Like that was
some of those movies take millions of dollars. Like seasons, like Game of Thrones, it was like 90 million for like an episode or something. That number could be crazy, but it's $1 million for one episode.
Yeah. It's insane.
That's
so
wild.
I never wanted to just go be running around, getting people their walkie-talkies and hands and like going up that's essentially the corporate ladder of the film industry.
Yeah.
I always wanted to do my own thing. So I never really knew what that meant. So it was always kind of confusing throughout college. I always felt out of place. And then I started doing like, music videos and short films, just being in the film industry and being in school. Like you were forced to make films, which was fun. Like, don't get me wrong. I did have fun with it. And then eventually I just honestly stopped doing film for a while. I stopped doing it for about like a year. I got into sales. I was working a solar door-to-door job. I think we talked about it a little bit, but I was literally, I'd drive out of my driveway. I'd go park up in a random neighborhood in Latham or Rotterdam or Rensselaer, and you just go knock on people's doors, bro, and you say, hey, I'm in the neighborhood about solar. So that kind of wet my feet a little bit when it came to like selling, because I think I talked about this previously, but a lot of the reasons why people aren't successful when it comes to being a creative or being video or media is that they can't sell what they do. Yeah. And it seems like you guys are kind of more on that side, like you're able to sell what you're doing.
Well,
to some extent.
I think that's the area that we probably have.
We needed more practice.
We need to practice
everybody,
on. But
you can always sell.
I would say like the issue we've had a lot is when we're in like the creative side, we'll do that and like people will like that and we'll get more attention. People will be, oh, we want to do this. And well, this is the last time. We've only done this one iteration, but last time that we went and we like started presenting these different products to people, or I guess our work, and people liked it and wanted us to come to their events, etc. Then we tried to transition 100% over there and like kind of denied the creative side,
right?
Which then drained, like you're not able to sell anything if you're not really like showing people it continually,
right?
So this time we're going around and we're going to make sure that we make both of those like lines at the same time, parallel, so we can maintain it.
Yeah. And I guess just to finish up mine, so then I eventually just started this company in like 2022 when I was out of college and just trying to pick up clients to do social media work for, video work in any sense, really. Because being a creative is like my favorite thing, but after a while you realize like I can't sit in my room and make this music video for a month and get paid $1,000. It's just not, I literally just can't live that way. Yeah. So that's kind of how I started getting into more of the business side of it, wetted my feet in sales, which I think was a good idea. And excited to kind of see where it goes, to go to New York City. But I want to hear more about how you guys actually started in getting into it, because obviously you joined him. So maybe start about how you even got into it.
I think like initially, and as far as long as I've been like alive, I guess, I've wanted to have like some type of organization or business. I don't know where it came from, but I just thought it was cool as a kid.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, it's changed like structures. Like maybe as a little kid, I thought we were going to be like a bunch of like guys in the forest like building stuff. And then as you get older, like it becomes more realistic and in tune with your life. I went to school originally. Well, I went to school for like cybersecurity. I have a pretty strong like tech background. Right now, I work as a software engineer. But as far as like that realm, I don't think that that's more of like a logical side, I think, of me. And on the other side is like more of the creative area, which is more like what we're talking about here. Right. So when we got out of college, like I was talking about earlier, where there's always that like four-year like progression, I was like, what do I want to do next? And in my mind, I was starting a career, was like I had an apartment. What's the next thing that like people do in life? And I was like, well, people create businesses, and that's like a hard thing that very rarely do people like really become profitable and successful from that. So I was like, okay, that sounds like the next hard thing to try. So initially our idea, I guess still our goal is we want to run a like influencer agency. So think of it kind of like how in like the music industry, people will be signed, or you can go and you can get certain help in order to like connect yourself. For the music industry is to connect them to either brands or connect them to the audience, et cetera, help them have campaigns and things to be able to make their things more popular. But our idea is to be able to do that for brands and influencers. And at the time, we didn't know enough about any of that realm at all to jump into that. So our first step was, he came up with the idea of, let's start with clothing. Like we like clothes, like we could make a clothing brand, we could just start something there. So we initially started that, and that taught us a lot of information about like audiences, how people are able to like know about a product, the different things that you need to do to create the product. Like what I'm wearing right now is one of the pieces, or the piece from our first collection. we did this all by hand, like dyed it ourselves.
A lot of
all of the
work.
art and everything, or the designs and everything, that was all designed by us. Shipped it out to the places. It got shipped to a warehouse. All that process. Not profitable at all. There was a lot of time we put into it, and so in the second iteration, we were like, okay, what do we have to do in order to make this a little bit better? And we were like, okay, we can do like on-demand fulfillment. So now we're not actually like making it for maybe like a week or so ourselves, have it be done by another place, and then they will provide the on-demand shipping, which means we don't necessarily make there's less potential profit for us to make there,
Right.
but we also don't have to put as much effort into it or upfront. So you don't have to buy all that and put all the $1,000 into it upfront.
That stuff's tough, yeah.
And we did a better job of like telling a story, marketing that product. So that
Like
collection
less
was called,
fulfillment, right? You get more to like the
Yeah.
story side
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
So we did that we did like a photo shoot. We went to like Green Lake State Park in Syracuse.
We also made a
got in the
video,
water. We did
which
a
was
video.
really the pivot point for us for the media side that we're in now. That was the jump off. It was that second collection.
Mm-hmm.
And that did a lot better. A lot of people liked it, and we got a lot more sales. Eventually, of course, that dwindles down as like people see less content and they already see it. People who would have bought it.
Right.
But after that, we were like, okay, well, we still don't have a large enough audience to really like have a business only on clothing. But we've learned a bunch of skills. We've learned things like making a website. We've learned things from creating the content, casting out these people, organizing these shoots. There's people who have existing audiences or brands that could use that. And that's where we moved toward like the Unrivaled media side, or like created that brand underneath the company. And from there we we have a couple of YouTube channels, or we had one YouTube channel we were pushing on primarily.
Yeah.
And we had an opportunity to go to, I think it was the Bridge Upstate Cypher. The Bridge Upstate Cypher.
We went to that one.
We went to that.
Yeah.
And we decided that they advertised it on their own. Shout out Zach G and the rest of them that put that together. But they advertised it themselves, and they wanted to put together like creatives and people who are rapping, etc. And we said, well, if we're going to show up, we got to like provide some type of added value to the event. So our idea was we'll just do interviews while we're there. So we came up with some questions, put those together, and we ended up going, and it was a big success. A lot of people liked it.
So quick pivot point. Well, not pivot point, kind of like a backtrack. So that's how we got into the interviews, the street interviews and things like that from the Upstate Cypher and his idea. But you're also skipping over Let's Convene, which was originally just, I think we just had, we just called it Unrivaled Energy or just Unrivaled Media at the time.
Yeah,
the channel.
We changed
it. Yeah, so we were doing reactionary videos and different content like that and putting that out, and people really liked it, and we generated a good amount of following. One of our best videos got probably like 10K views.
Right now it's probably at like 30K or something. But
okay. And then from there, when we were putting like clips out and things like that, we then pivoted to that as well. So that's what made the separate channels for us.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then from like the Bridge Upstate Cypher that they had, they ended up doing someone from the event talked to him and was like, oh, I want you to come to our event.
Yep. That shout out
And
to Nazi
so
and Go Global.
We went over to there. They had a rooftop party. We did our interviews there, created content there, and then we've worked with them in the past as well for another event they had. So that kind of was our progression of going down that route towards like focusing specifically on media and using our skills around that to organize and put together those types of content. And then what I was talking about earlier about us like making the mistake of focusing too much on selling and not creating the content at the same time, that was the time period where we were like, okay, well, we've got these. Now let's try to like sell these different services exclusively, which is we sell editing services, like auxiliary for people who have either other shoots and things they have, or if they maybe they don't even do any content. They just want that to be created, and we can be a part of that process. But on our side, we ended up focusing too much on that and not so much on like the marketing of ourselves, which is what we're getting back into now. We got a couple shows coming along. We're here. We've been on a couple podcasts.
Nice.
Trying to get back into creating the content, putting things out, as well as selling our things in two different lines.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think with what you guys are doing, I think the coolest part for me is that you're willing to shift. I think sometimes people get stuck on one idea and they'll never let that idea go, and that's why they'll never be successful. Obviously, there's a dichotomy between like you got to stick with one thing, but I always like seeing the the evolution of businesses and how they come, because like with Barstool, like Dave Portnoy, he started like I don't even know what it was. It was just like a gambling.
Yeah, it was like sports gambling.
Yeah, I think it was just sports gambling. Now you see what it's turned into today. Like that's obviously a macro example, but it's just cool to see what happens when you just stick with one thing and stick with one thing. He said he was on a podcast the other day and he's like, I almost forgot how hard it was to make money because of how easy it is for me to make money. He's like, I struggled for 20 years to make a
that's
dollar.
what I dream about. I dream about getting over that like hump to where like
now you just
it's just there and you're saying no to things like that.
Right. So that leads me to the next question. What do you think? What's your guys' opinion on like passion versus opportunity? Because I think a lot of people have different opinions on that. They think you should follow your passion, or they think nah, fuck that. Like you should follow whatever the opportunity is best. Like what do you guys think about?
That's an interesting way that he.
I know how I think about it, but
so for me it's really it's opportunity, honestly. And this kind of goes back to kind of that old saying of like, you mentioned it, but in reality, doing the thing that you love, I don't think that is necessarily the case, right? Like, and here's an example of that, right? Like originally the business that we just talked about, it started out as a sports gambling business, but then it completely changed to like this large media presence, right? And that's how they make money. So if he had stayed with his passion, like of trying to get this sports gambling business off the ground, it would have failed.
Oh, we don't know that.
Well, yeah, we don't know.
I feel like you would have still done it,
but I think it
wouldn't be as large as it is now.
But I think in hindsight, or at least looking at the data points, right? Like it's showing us that you need to be versatile and be able to change and look at what is actually on the field, and then I think you can grow to actually enjoy what you're doing, right? And I think also as a way, like that can be something that you enjoy, but also you're doing it because you want that to also be something that can help you enjoy other things in your life.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like how I look at it.
That makes sense. Yeah, that reminds me of like, I don't think that there's, like when I was in my sales job, I didn't completely hate it, but I realized that in life there's things that like you don't have to love the actual job that you're doing. You can love like aspects of it. So for example, when somebody works at like a financial industry, a financial firm, and you're the, I don't know, what would be a good example, like the bookkeeper or like your HR, like you don't love firing and hiring people or like working at a financial firm. You like an aspect of it, whether it's the control you have or the hours you work or the people you work with. Like I always thought to myself, like I need to do exactly what I love or else I'm never going to do it. It's like, that's not necessarily the case. I can love an aspect of that job. So for when it was selling, it was like, I didn't love going door to door and getting rejected and people saying no, slam the door in your face. But when I was able to sit down with somebody and shoot the shit and meet somebody new and like actually go back and forth and create a connection, I was like, dude, this shit lights me up.
Okay.
So it was certain aspects of it.
And there's even certain aspects that you have right now that I would say editing, right? We understand editing is a grind.
Right.
There's times where you hate that shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sorry, but there's times where we was editing that YouTube channel. I hate that shit. Yeah, I hated that shit. I was there's times where I didn't stop until 5 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
And I gotta wake up for work.
Yeah.
Hated it.
Right.
But I'm here. I'm locked in.
Right.
Because for me, it's a commitment, right? Like I'm making a choice, and it's through that is where I grow to have the passion and care for it. Because there's like when we did our first music video was when we shot the Curse Collection, the photo shoot, and then we also did the other Torn Collection music video. Even the even honestly the Kingdom 3 and 5, like those things, right? In the moment, I'm thinking about my day. I'm like, this is the shit that I like.
Right.
You know, this is shit that I love. I could do this.
So the planning around it is maybe where things are not as fun.
Right. So like that's like YouTube channel, right? Recording it. Great. Love that. Fun. Right? We're going back and forth at each other. Editing of the video?
Yeah.
Trash. There's a balance. There's a takeaways and different things.
If you're not like if you didn't love that from the beginning, I think I can edit a little bit more than the next person because like I've been doing it for so long and I actually do like it. Of course, there's times where I'm like, bro, it's 11 o'clock at night right now. I'm just trying to go to sleep.
You're shot.
I think that's anything though. Like I played basketball for 20 years. I loved it. Was there times, bro? Probably 70% of the time I didn't want to go work out. Like when it comes to the gym, same thing. I think the thing that the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is if you can just shut off what's going on in your brain and just do what you know you have to fucking do.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
So just off that, right? I want to pivot to you because
am I
I think what I'm thinking. No, so this I know you have something else, but I first want you to answer this because this is something that he believes in a lot. Okay. So what I think that you're touching on right there, I think that is the emotional responses and signals that we get for certain things that like. I don't want to go to the gym. It's because I'm feeling lazy or I feel like I just can't do it right now. Right? It's an emotional thing. Mm-hmm. And for him, what will you say about those things?
I would say you definitely could. Unless you can't actually physically get up, you can't go to the gym. So it's really just about what do you have to tell yourself to be able to get yourself to that point.
But also I think it like your belief about how emotions control your actions. That's what I'm trying to get you to think about, like what we talked about.
I don't know specifically. Go to get me to the spot that you're talking about.
It's more so about the fact that emotion is more so a signal, but it is not It's not a.
Oh, it's not It's not technically real. Like it's a notification. It's not like for example, it's just about your body telling you something. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do anything. You got to be the one that tells yourself, because of this and other information, I decide I'm going to. Yeah. It can't just be a direct response to what you're saying.
I think the brain's an interesting thing, dude. Like, it's really about playing tricks on your brain. I mean, I've thought about that when it comes to working. That's the thing I can relate to the most, like working out or basketball, because that was the biggest part of my life for the last 20 years of my life. Mm-hmm. And anytime I didn't want to go work out, I would literally like come up with games in my brain to trick myself to go work out.
You know what I mean? That's Like I think
he's
big on games.
Yeah, like you have to gamify everything, and I'm not perfect at it. Like by no means am I perfect at it. One thing that I was actually going to make a piece of content on was like, for me specifically, personally, if I want to do something that I don't want to do, I know that sounds backwards, but like I know I should do this to make my life better, to become smarter, be better at sales, or be a better videographer, whatever it is. But I would much rather watch the YouTube video of Bryson DeChambeau and John Daly playing, 18 rounds of golf, 18 holes of golf. I have to beeline towards like whatever it is I told myself I wanted to do. So if I hop in the car and I'm like, all right, for these next 30 minutes, I'm going to throw on this YouTube video that's going to teach me how to do this. Like I literally can't even look at anything else besides that thing. So I can't go answer a text or Instagram.
Gotta lock in.
I think
minus put out the distractions, the noise.
And it has a lot to do with social media being like the most powerful drug in the world, in my opinion. Like they're so good at showing you exactly what you want to see to keep you there.
They touch on the emotions,
So, but that's a trick that I play is like, I'm like, if I want to watch this YouTube video, I can do nothing but throw the YouTube video on. Then at that point, once I'm 5-10 minutes, and you guys realize, like once you're 5-10 minutes into the actual activity, you're like, all right, this ain't so bad. Like I'll do this. Yeah. But when you have the other option in the beginning, it won't do it. So when it came to working out for me, it was like, I had to make it as easy as possible to work out and as hard as possible not to. So, like, I would literally, like, get dressed into my workout clothes and then sit on the couch and then be like, all right, in 30 seconds, I'm going to get up. And then I would literally count down in my head.
The counting. I count too. Like, I'm about to get up in 5 seconds. 1, 2.
And then you're like, okay, I got it.
And then in my head, I'm like trying to turn off my brain to think about what I'm even doing. I'm like getting my keys, grabbing my bag, getting a water. And then by the time I'm like leaving, I'm like, wait, what am I even doing right now? And then I'm in my car, I'm on my way. It sounds dumb, but it's like, I've always been like that. Even in school back in the day, I was always a kid that had to study a lot. Like I could never just sit in class and just retain the information and just take the test. So when it came to school and like learning, I had to play tricks on my brain, like to know what the information was going to be, or trick myself into studying for 30 minutes or whatever it might be. So that's been a really like big unlock for me in my life, is truly trying to realize that my brain is like it's like a game. It's like a muscle that you can train to do different things. You have to brainwash yourself.
The biggest thing about it's because what you're really touching on is habits, right? And because our brain it doesn't always want to actively think.
No.
It learns your patterns to then just put you back into a reactionary
There's
mode.
less energy to like actively think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what you're really talking about is training it properly, and that's the hardest part. And I don't know if you have read Atomic Habits, but two things that you really just touched on is there's two things that it talks about, right? One is controlling your environment, but then also making habits easier to do. So like if you want to start a new habit, so one of the examples is like somebody wanted to start playing the guitar. Instead of having it in your closet, literally put it in your living room.
Right.
And then so every time you sit down in your living room and you're like, I want to play, it's right in front of your face. So subconsciously it's easier for you to then go pick it up and just start playing or learning how to play.
Right.
And then also controlling your environment, right? Putting your phone away or making sure that it's on do not disturb. Controlling the noise, because I don't think people realize how much, like, you get email notifications, your text messages, all of your apps have some form of notifications. I have went through, we've even talked about this, of turning off certain apps and like notifications because it's like, it's just useless.
Right.
Like I've even gotten to the point now where I feel comfortable. Like I literally actively think about, okay, have I hit all my responsibilities now for the day where I can like safely turn off my phone.
Right.
And I can just be more present and like, no, I'm just home and I'm about to go to sleep.
Right.
Or I'm just gonna go eat, get myself together and then just knock out.
Right.
Like that has been helpful for me in terms of controlling my environment to you're positioning yourself to be in a better place.
Yeah, and I think another thing, I think that book, I actually never read that book, but I think with
great book.
Nowadays people like spew the information of those books online so much that I think another one was habit stacking I heard about.
Yep. That's morning routines, night routines. I do that as well. It's the easiest one to get into.
That one's the easiest. So like you have coffee, you read a book, or every time you hop in the car, you listen to a podcast.
You do this, and that.
Because it's like you already do that on a daily basis anyway. So yeah, no, I think that's been one I've been actually to implement into my life. And all this stuff that we talk about is good. I think it's just really hard to actually implement it on a daily basis. I think the thing
it's all about execution.
Yeah, the hardest thing for me has been like keeping, like I could do it for a few days or a few weeks, but like the people that impress me are the ones that can just do it year in and year out every single day.
I think they're just so far into it. Like you're talking about the 5 minutes into the video. It's the same thing about whatever habit they had. Maybe that's just a part of them now. So like it's easier for them to lock into
momentum.
It. You're saying we're 25, 26, early ages of adulthood. We're at the beginning of it. So like that's why it's so hard. Yeah,
I think the one guy, the Conor McGregor quote where he's like, I lost my mind, bro. Like I've been doing this so long, I already lost my mind in this game. He's and I don't care. He's like I forget the quote. It was like, I'm Vincent Van Gogh. Like I've lost my mind to my craft, but that's what I want. Like that's what I need. And that's how real success happens, which is kind of a scary thought for me because I don't really know if I want to get to that point, to be honest with you. Like
to be obsessed?
I don't like I've been obsessed and I have different feelings about it. Like I enjoyed being obsessed with basketball, but at the same time, it blinded the fuck out of me. Like I think if I could go back and do it all over again, I don't think I'd change anything. But maybe one thing I would add, maybe a habit stack, would be, after every basketball practice, I come home and read some business book or think about, like, what do I want to start? Because I wish I didn't start my business or, like, attempt to start a business at 21. I wish I was starting at, like, 17, 18. Because now you have 8 years instead of a couple years, So true. I think that's the only thing about being obsessed is that, like, you have to be careful about what you choose to be obsessed over.
Yeah, that's true.
You know so I mean? It's so interesting that you bring that up because this is something that I've talked to him about. It's, like, we, like, as humans, right, like, in the world, there's so many things that you can just choose to do, like in an overarching big grand scheme of where you want to go, right? Like you could take the career job, and then even within the career job, there's different facets of what you want to do and then how to, like, get that. But the biggest thing is, if you want to be good at that, if you want to be, like, wherever level of success you want to get at, you also have to be willing to dedicate all of that time to it. And this that level of obsession that you're talking about is because once you make that choice, that is really it. And if you choose it right, that is the freedom. But if you don't, then it becomes more of a chaos, and you feel like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that, but then that just puts you in a lock.
Right. You see the people that are successful in anything, they just stuck with it, bro. And here's the other cliche, just stick with it. Like, it really is. Like, it could be anything. Like, for example, I won't name any names, but I had a buddy who had a girlfriend, and she was in, like, the, like, what are they, esthetician or whatever it is, like the facial, whatever it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
cosmetology.
And
Okay.
you know, she had been doing it for a couple of years, and after like 4, 5, 6 years, she finally, her business starting to finally pick up. And I'm like, it just shows you it doesn't matter what it is. Like, I would never think that would be something that people go
Take
and
off
pursue and
and
take off in.
Yeah.
But you just do one thing for a long enough time, and that kind of brings you back to like with the sales thing. I was going door to door. I was like, I could get really good at sales. Personally, I think like I'm not the smartest guy in the room, in any room. Like I have always felt like a little bit disadvantaged in just like picking things up quickly. But I always had that like drive to just be like, kind of like, fuck you, bro. I'm going to figure this thing out. Like,
Nah, that's me.
I was never the best at this. Like I never had the most tops or whatever it was. But I always felt like if I just kept trying to figure it out.
Resiliency. That's one of my things that I really like have put myself into, is like anything that I like get into, I feel like I'm kind of behind.
Right.
But I'm like, once I figure this shit out and I get it, I got
it's
it.
over. Yeah.
I got it.
Right. And then like, so I say that to say like, I don't know. I feel like it's tough. Kind of lost my train of thought. I feel like it's tough to pick the wrong thing and then feel like, damn, I just spent the last 10 years doing this. Like, for example, with the sales thing, I was like, I can keep doing this. If I stay around Albany and I stay going door to door and I get good at solar and I keep going, in 5 years, like, I'm going to be making good money. I have no doubt about that. Like, there's absolutely no doubt. But it's like, do I want to do that for the rest of my life? So that's when I start to struggle with mortality and, like, purpose in life and, like, where I want to be in 20 years. And that 24, 23 years old, like, I don't want to think about that, dude. I'm just trying to make it to the next day.
But
So, where do you want to be in 20 or I don't know how far your plan is.
That's the thing, is I think that made me realize that, like, going door, I would get out of my, you know, I'd hop in my car, have all this anxiety of going door to door, and I'm thinking to myself, like, is this really, I knew at the moment, I knew it wasn't going to be what I did forever, but I'm like, is this the moment to like kind of decide? Like, because if I just keep doing this and keep letting this happen every day, I just keep getting older and I keep getting older and I'm not doing the thing I want. So that's why I brought up that passion versus like opportunity thing. Because I think, like you said, you have to choose the opportunity, and I think you have to be close to your passion, because at the end of the day, if you just literally hate it, you'll never, the opportunity doesn't matter because you won't even care.
I don't think you'll be able to start it if it's not something that you have like an affinity to.
Right.
Because it might just be too difficult compared to some other things that you're better at.
Right.
But even for me, I think whatever I do, it ends up becoming like, for my career that I have in like software engineering, tech world and all that type of stuff, I really liked as a kid, grew up with it. But now that a lot of that feels like work. I don't want to do that outside of my stuff. And that used to be like a hobby that I would do to like de-stress. And now that like the stuff that we're doing here with media, that stuff is slowly becoming the same thing. So in my mind, I feel like in order to make something like profitable, you kind of are like cannibalizing a passion, for me at least, because I know that when I start getting into a certain level of like obsession with it, that I'm worried about like every intricacy and making sure that I'm knowledgeable in these areas and I'm making sure I'm doing what I need to do.
Right.
It's no longer fun because I'm not able to make like those non-important, non-committal decisions of like switching around and just doing whatever, which I think a passion has a lot more of that like freedom in.
Right.
it's less structured.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is, because the passion is more so getting initialized by like the emotion signals, where work or a goal is more so about you having a thought process about the process, the structure, how is it going to happen, and building that out, and then working within the structure. So then you have to now start battling yourself about the fact of like,
are you going to stay in the structure?
Yeah, am I going to stay in the structure? Do I need to follow this? I think once you start moving in more of like a robotic way, and you don't have the opportunity to like always give into your emotional signals or the emotional notification that you get, that's when you start to battle with yourself. But I think that's what also kind of gives you that reward, is because you're putting the time in to push through all of those things to then say, I did that.
Right. Because then at that point, like you say, that's where success comes from, is like, do I really want to go to the gym after this? Like, not really, bro. I'd probably just, if I could, just throw on some golf and just chill out. You know what I mean? But like, I know that that's not what's going to make me happy in 5 years or in 6 months. Like, when you look back and you see where you were 6 months ago or a year ago, like, it does feel good to be like, all right, I am making some fucking progress here.
But it's also, I think, it's going back to what you said before. It's a respect and value in yourself, right? Huge, like you feel like you're acknowledging yourself when you make that action. And then also you compound that, and then you also like your body, it looks better. You feel better.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's even compounded over time and years.
I have a question about your name, like the name of your business. Where did Marketive come from?
Yeah, honestly, it's pretty funny. So I always felt like I was a creative. It's not really too deep. And I was like, I want to be a creative that's marketing to people. So I literally
Marketing,
like Post Malone, bro.
I
just put the two together, creative and marketing,
right.
and just came up with Marketive. I knew I wanted something with M because that's my last name's Molson. So at the end of the day, I always wanted to rock like an M symbol because it would just be cool to have like with my name. And I didn't ever want to make it Molson Media just because I kind of wanted to keep my name out of it. And eventually I wanted to be a company I could sell.
Yeah.
So I wanted it to be like separate from me. So I'm happy with it. I honestly kind of came up with it pretty quickly. I didn't like put too much thought into it. Kind of rang nice in my head, and I was just like, I'm just gonna roll with it, and I just kept it going from there. But I'm really happy about the M part and the logo I have and everything like that. So
that's good. That's good.
I want to touch on life legacy. I want to let you guys know like what I think about it a little bit, and then I want to hear what you guys think about like legacy. For me, it's like it wasn't ever about leaving stuff to my kids and like creating this huge name for myself. I always felt like legacy is kind of built over time, and you don't really know what it is until you're kind of towards the end of your life. Mm-hmm. Like for me, it was always about, I just want to get out what I think is real and what is fake, what my thoughts are versus what other people's thoughts are. Not to say that mine are better than other people's, but
just be yourself, you're saying. Identify.
Yeah, I was always trying to be authentic, and I always hated seeing people that like play the trends or say what you're supposed to say. Like I was never, for whatever reason, like my parents are great. They've provided for me for so long, and they've raised me to be a good person. But for whatever reason, there was always something about me. Like I was a little bit more outspoken than the rest of my family about just like what's real and what's not in the world. I'm like, for whatever reason, I just want people to know if I die tomorrow, this podcast will get thrown out there, and at least somebody will see what I had to say. Because, and if you think about it, like we're a blip in fucking time, dude. 100 years is nothing, bro. In the reality of what's happened and what's gonna happen. So at the end of the day, I just want to be able to put myself out there, and as simple as like you're gonna hear what I had to say, what I thought. Now I think when it comes to legacy, like the more you put yourself out there and the more you say things, I don't think when people are building their legacy, like, oh, how's this going to affect me? How's this going to affect LeBron's legacy? They're not thinking that, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, I'm just doing what I want to do, bro. It's not about fucking what my legacy is going to be. It's like, I'm just going to do what I feel like I should do every single day. And then my legacy is built to that at some point by the end of my life. So I want to hear like kind of you guys, what you guys feel.
I think when I think about legacy, I think I have like a vision of how I would like things to go. And I think at certain stages of my life, when I see that is no longer possible, then like that potential like gets crossed out, and then maybe it might change into something else. Right now, like what I would view as like a good legacy to leave behind would be, I want our business to be profitable. It doesn't necessarily need to be like the greatest thing that I'm known for, but I want it to be profitable because at least it's self-sustaining. And then I can focus on other things. But as far as like legacy, I think for me, it would be like, I would like to have a family. And I'd like to be able to have like the family I grew up, them all to be I guess us to be able to have like more quality time. Like, you know how you had those times when you were younger? Like for me, like my parents divorced when I was like 12-ish or something like that, 13 in that age. And I think for me that like grew me up a lot. So now in my mindset now, I would like some more times where I could have like that family aspect with like my siblings and things. Like we have it every now and then, but now like everyone's moved apart. Like my sister's in Florida, my brother's in Binghamton. Yeah. Like we're all
in Florida. My brother lives in Miami.
She's in Tampa.
Okay.
Yeah.
My roommate from college from Tampa.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in Tampa these days. I've been thinking about it, but I don't know. We I see where. Yeah, it's not just my decision for where we go. But I would like to have like those times with my family again, or more of them. Not that they haven't been, but more of them. And I'd like to have them in like the great points of our lives. I think and I would be content with that.
That's fair.
When I have kids or when I have that, I think vision of that will evolve.
That's the other thing too. I think what I say
right
now
now,
is like what my
it's where it is.
25-year-old self thinks, but
True.
something I always think about is when I'm 35, I'm gonna be like, what a fucking dumbass, bro. You know what I mean? So yeah. What about you?
So for me, I'm that cliche that you were talking about. Okay. Right?
So it's okay to be a cliche,
No,
bro.
listen.
White picket fence? You on the white picket fence?
I'm like, it's not. I don't care about the.
Hater, bro.
It's not a white picket fence. It's more so. I'm really driven kind of by the fact of being able to build an environment for all the people that I can care about and be a individual that they can look to for protection, for wisdom, and for support. Really, that's like really like my legacy. And recently, something that like I kind of had like even more of like kind of epiphany about was I want to continue to move in the way of no matter what, I'm going to die, right? Mm-hmm. So it's always better to try to make the choices that's going to be best for me and also being able to provide for the people that I care about. So it's if like I die tomorrow, right? Like it'll be nice if somebody's around, right? Or like my significant other's around. But like I can't like depend on that.
Right.
I need to be able to at least be proud of the fact of like, okay, the choices that I made, the things that I wanted to achieve and the reflection of that and what it provided for was people that, you know, I cared about.
Right.
And with that, I'm good.
I think I only gave you part of my answer. Now that I was thinking about it, I think that's true for what I was saying, but what I want. But there's another side of me that's like maybe like my more like wholesome side. I think there's another part of me that really wants. I just want to be like the best I can be. Like I want to max out that potential as much as possible, and that I think that's been a driving force to my life of just trying to grow and grow and grow. But I think that's really what I want to do. So, like I was saying, get in the business to where it can be profitable. There's other things that I'd like to pursue that are, in my eyes, like held back until I'm able to get like through the steps of I need to be able to build a business. Because if I can't do that, the rest of that stuff is definitely not going to happen because I don't have the skill set for it.
Right. So
I think that's what it is.
It made me think about a little my answer as well. I think another thing that I envy is like free spirits. Like something that I'm excited to do is go move to New York City. I've been wanting to do it for a while. I've always envied people that could just like up and move to a new city or change jobs or, you know, like leave a relationship that they're, you know, not meant to be in or whatever. Like people that can just see it for what it is and know that it's not that serious, man. Like you'll figure it out. Like everything's going to work out in the end. I think I'm a really deep thinker. So that's something I'm trying to work on. And I want to leave that legacy of somebody that like, I just went and did it, bro. Like I just squeezed the shit out of life. I just squeezed it by the nuts and was like, I'm just going to get as much as I can out of this because you literally never know what could happen. So yeah, that's another part of me that I definitely want to, I think that's like something you can work on daily too, is like not holding on to things and making them so serious. I think that's something I struggle with is I like put a lot of weight on things, you know?
Nah, that's actually, I think for me, that's probably one of my problems is I think I hold on to past events too much.
Yeah.
And that leads me to like to a downfall where if I'm able to let go of those things, it can allow me to be more elevated and stay at a constant like higher energy.
That brings up something. I don't know if this is the same for you, but for me, a lot of those past like things that I've gone through gives me the motivation to be like, I need to be the best, et cetera, et cetera. I need to put that forward. So something I've struggled with recently is like with letting go of some of those things, or not even, I'd even necessarily fully let it go. It's just enough time has passed by that I look at it and I'm like, why did I even care about it? That happened in like high school. Yeah. That doesn't even matter. Yeah. And if I'm using that as like the gas for my engine, how do I find something else that can give me like that same level of motivation when the things that I was using before are like basically irrelevant at this point?
Yeah.
And I don't think I have the full answer for that, but I don't know if that's...
No, I agree. I think as you get older, that just changes. Like I was always nervous to grow up. I never thought I'd be ready for it, but I think the older I got, the more I realized like the older you get, like it just happens and you're ready for it when the time comes. Like, am I ready to have a kid right now? Fuck no. But when it's time to have a kid, I'll be fucking ready. You know, like I'll be in a place where I need to be. So yeah, I think that's something I've taken over the past few years because, like you said, or like I mentioned in the beginning, you know, we're like 4 or 5 years old out here, you know, 25, 26 years old. Like, it's tough.
So this is actually a question I've been holding on in my mind for a while since we started one of the sections. But kind of talking about you said like having a kid, right? And kind of at that point in time, you're going to do the best that you can, etc. And previously we were kind of talking about doing the best you can. But I think I also correlate that to a lot of people think about perfection, right? And perfection is not something that you can achieve.
Right. You can get close though.
You getting a window into our internal meetings. But so my thought process, right, is when you're thinking about putting out like that content, right, and then after you look back and like, I could have did better here, etc. Like, but that goes back to like you can't truly reach perfection, but also you're trying to do the best with whatever information that you have at the time, and that's really what the essence of like putting something out and doing what you can. But I have this also question, like what is your best in that moment, right? Because I'm trying to think about, like, you say I did my best, but did you really do your best in a sense of like, was every single action, I think, like, should have had the maximum effort? But it's like, are you really sure that everything was your maximum effort? Or because I feel like we usually correlate, I did my best, but you didn't. Like, you didn't do your best because there were certain moments where you didn't put max effort in. But we say it in hindsight of like, I did my best in that moment, just because the moment has now passed.
Right. Yeah, I think something with that, I think it's hard because I truly don't think you can put your entire max effort into every aspect, because if people they would do it more often, or I guess the people that do are really successful. But I've always been a believer of like, I'm going to put my max effort into this aspect of this task and see how much that changes the outcome. So for example, if it's a video, right, I'll come down and all right, this time I make the lighting like super cool. Like I'm going to make it all, I'm going to spend like an hour and a half lighting the scene, doing all this stuff. And I'll go ahead and do it. And I'm like, all right, that made it look good. And then this time I'm going to focus on the actual content itself, like the actual scripting. And this time I'm going to really dial in, like, what am I actually saying to these people?
Do you bring those back to the baseline after you see the change, though? Yeah,
I would say what I do is I figure out what affects it the most. Because I think for us, it's like, the self-consciousness, and I don't think we'll ever sit here and be like, oh, that's the best I can do. Because then where can you go from there, right? Yeah. That video is the best video I'll ever make. Like, I'll never say that. So it's like, where can I really go tangibly to get better? And it's dialing in one aspect. Because I'm like, I know I can be better at that aspect of it. If I can dial that in, how much will that change the video?
That makes sense.
And I think, to your question, when it comes to posting content or just doing anything in life now, my philosophy is, can I fuck with this? Like, do I rock with this content? Like, if I posted this and nobody liked it, nobody commented, nobody even viewed it, would I be confident with this being out there? Like, would this be something I could be proud of? And if the answer is yes, then I'll put it out there. And for many years, I think something that's underrated is that people will just take out their camera, and the first thing they say, they post it, which is like, good. A bias for action is better than no bias for action. But at the end of the day, you do have to have some self-auditing, I think.
And it's necessary.
That's what happened for me, is that, like, for a couple of years, I was making like this style of content or like talking to the camera, and I'm like, I just can't post this. Like, I don't feel confident I don't think this is good, me personally. So it is super subjective. But I think that's the moment people start to do well, is when they're like, I'm posting this because I think it's good, and I'm going to keep posting it because I think it's good. And it's not about the 3,000 people that saw it or the 50 people that commented or the people that didn't comment and didn't really like it. It's not about them. It's about me posting it, letting people know, and getting the respect of like, yo, he's doing something that I've always wanted to do and never had the nuts to do it. Yeah. So that's kind of been the journey I've been on mentally for the last few years. And yeah, that's really where I'm at.
With what you said, it kind of helps me understand kind of my question as well. So you said, I'm going to focus on the lighting in this aspect and make sure that is the best that I can do. And then kind of like you mentioned, and bringing that back to the baseline. So I think that what really is the best at that moment is, you have a standard, right? So you already have you're good at your composing of the camera, right? But then you focused on the lighting, and then you incorporated that. So then you posted it, right? That was your best because you did those aspects. So then the next time you come, you have that baseline, and then you notice something else, and then you add that, and then that is what your best is, and that's the standard. So the standard of the best is like the understanding of the information, and then also like, okay, here was a mistake that I made, and then making sure the next time that you just fix that mistake, and then that iteration is your best,
right?
Because
at
you had
the
baseline at the time.
Experience, you can read books and courses and all this stuff, and I think it's useful, of course, because you skip steps that you would have to go through just through experience. But they always say experience is the best teacher. It really is, man. Like the comfortability of even like sitting on a podcast. I've done this 20, 30 times now. Like the comfortability of just sitting down, having a microphone in your hand, having a camera on, just talking, and just talking, and not being like, so like, because at the end of the day, it's just about experience. I did a wedding yesterday. Another great example. It's like I pull up to that wedding, not a fear in my mind. No doubts in my mind, because it's like I've done this
multiple times,
30, 40 times now. Yeah. It's like I just don't. So I think it's more of like proving it to yourself that you can do it is another thing too, because that's something that I think that's underrated. But yeah, we're an hour in, so if you guys have any like final thoughts, I wanted to hear more about. We did legacy. Is there any other topics you guys wanted to bring up?
Went over some of the relationship.
I like to keep my podcast around like an hour 15, because when it gets like 2 hours, it's just fucking,
it's long.
It's terrible.
No, I think
we hit a lot, honestly.
We covered a lot.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of maybe one thing to cap it off. All right, maybe talk about Unrivaled and like where you guys want to go, and give yourself a little promo or something.
So we'll do that.
Okay, go ahead.
But I also have another thing.
Yeah,
I think that all of us here, right, are able to have these type of conversations and these things. It's not based upon the fact that like you've gone out and done it with other people. It's because you internally, alone, by yourself, you have these thoughts, or you have different experiences against the world that actually allow you to have the ability to have conversations and do other things with other people. That's something that like I thought about a while ago. I was like, why am I actually able to, I feel like, have these debates or have like different intellectual conversations or have different understandings? And anybody at certain levels of any technical or intellectual things, you're only able to do that as an individual with another person is because you yourself actually had the experience against the world. And that's mostly what it is in totality. Right. Like you, me, you, we're all player one.
Right.
And the only thing that we're able to like kind of go off of and then come back with and then interact with, it's be based upon our own experiences brushing up against the world.
Yeah,
that's a good way to put it.
That's huge
right there.
Yeah.
Honestly, and to finish that off, I've always thought about that. I was always bad at being alone, being by myself in my own thoughts. Because my whole life I was the younger brother. I always had.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. I was always the younger brother. My brother's 28, and I was always friends with his friends. There was always something to do. And the first moment I ever really had to like face my own life, I guess, was obviously moving away to Boston and going to college. But I lived in Oswego for 1 year after post college, my super senior year. I played basketball 1 more year, and I lived alone, like actually alone. Mm-hmm. And there's something about like living actually alone, like by yourself. You come to your apartment, there's nobody there.
Yeah.
Where like you're just in your own thoughts, and it just really made me realize like, if I can't be just okay sitting here alone in my apartment by myself, like I'm screwed, because at the end of the day, people die, people leave, relationships end, things are situational. Like as much as it sounds terrible to say, I believe a lot of stuff is transactional, and it's okay. Like it doesn't have to be labeled as bad. Like all relationships, in my opinion, are transactional.
I was telling you that.
Completely. Like I don't think any otherwise. Like my mom, for example, she loves me, and that gives her so much joy. That's a transaction. She gets a feeling of warmth for loving me. Vice versa. I love her. She's provided for me for my whole life. All this other stuff. A girlfriend, same thing. Like she provides certain things for you. You provide certain things for her. So I always struggled with that fact, because I always had friends. I was always outspoken and extroverted, but the moment I kind of had to be introverted and like really face myself was the moment I was like, wow, like this is what really life's about. Like the people that can just go out into the woods and just be by themselves for months at a time, like that's hard to do, bro.
No, actually,
that's hard.
That's a skill that I actually want to develop, because I want to be able to survive if I'm in those situations.
Because I feel like you guys are both more extroverted. I'm interested in what is your inside, like what's it like when nothing's happening? what's going on in your head? Because for me, I'm just talking to myself. Or I'm just moving around. Do are you talking to yourself, or is it just like a monkey just like clapping the symbols together?
No, I talk to myself.
No, I talk to myself all the time.
Yeah.
But so this is
everybody does, dude. If you say you don't, you're lying, bro.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. So this is my like. Okay, this is how I've broken it down to you before, right? Is
and then we gotta close out on this.
Yeah, we can close out. If you're like you get to really know him. And like you're on the phone with him, or you're thinking about a project. I don't think that he really realizes how kind of like ahead he is of some other people. But like we can get into an idea, right? Because he's naturally just always running. Like I imagine he still has running right now that I'm even talking. But like,
that's funny, bro. How long you guys know each other now?
Oh man,
6. Oh
no, it's not 6. Like maybe 5 years. 5? No, it's
so you met
more
like
than 5 years. It's more than 5 years actually.
We've
First
known
couple
each other
years of
since
college?
like
From college,
junior year, your junior.
Yeah, my junior year of college.
So that's 5 plus.
No, it's more than 5. It has to be. I think it's like 8 or more.
So yeah, it's been a while.
That's crazy. Yeah. But you're getting into a project and talking about that. Like once you kind of like say your piece, he will like just it's like watching a ground level of a game and you just see everything building like it's like Minecraft, like just everything's building. He just makes it. He just puts it all out, and I'm like, yo, like I follow him. I can give feedback, but it's like, bro, I just don't think you realize how fast your mind runs. Like I just don't.
Fire, though.
But it's like it's not a problem. Like it's a good thing. But like for me, like for like when I'm alone and I'm in my silence. I'm usually like I'm in my head like I'm talking to myself. Like when I'm by myself, like I'll also speak out loud. I don't give a fuck. I don't.
That's
give
what
a fuck.
I meant to say. Is that I think if you say you don't speak out loud to yourself, you're lying, bro.
Oh yeah. No, I'll speak out loud. I'll speak
all
out loud
day,
with people around. I don't give a fuck. Some people might think I'm crazy that thought that, but I don't give a fuck. I'm like I'm here, bro. I'm here.
That's funny, bro.
But there's times where like I start to go on like different problems that we get faced just throughout life. You know, I now. And understanding, especially when we are talking about business topics, like I can't do the normal action of like when it gets to like serious topics, I go in my mind. So like I stop talking and I'll just be going through it and piecing it together. But for him, he'll still like be outside himself speaking about it.
But that's so you can know. That's the only.
No, but you do that shit by yourself too. Don't even try that. Don't even try that. Don't even try that. But it's really. If you're thinking about it as I think his just RPMs are just a lot higher than the average person, and he just tries to not acknowledge it sometimes. Yeah, but yeah, I
mean, it's hard to be like self-aware and like know exactly what your strengths are. I think that's like a skill to develop. Is like, all right, I know I'm not really good at this, or I know I'm really good at this, so like maybe we should, like delegate the task this way or that way. So yeah, I think that's something people just juggle with on a daily basis. Like, what am I
also
good at?
Silence time. Or dark time, which is really just another word for alone time. You spending more time alone, not having music on, not watching TV, things like that, and you really thinking. Like, I journal, I do voice recordings and things like that. That's what helps prompt me to actually reflect. Because, like we said, reviewing and self-analyzation, that's the only way that you actually really move the needle, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree. I appreciate you guys coming on, bro.
Yeah, listen, this has actually been great.
Dude, I gotta do a little quick video, you guys, real quick. I always do it.
Yep.
Quick video, hold on.
Yep. We're here. Also, we got some behind scenes, so I'll give you the hyperlapse and all that, so you can also use that.
Appreciate you guys, bro. It was a pleasure. Bro.
Good.
Hell yeah.